Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and I'm super excited for today's video because I adore talking about my favorite books, and this video is going to be all of my 5-star reads so far this year. It is actually May 1st when I'm filming this, so I have 4 completed months of the year so far with reading, and I have quite a few 5-star reads. I saw McKay from Oh Hey It's McKay do this video, and I loved watching hers and getting her recommendations, so I thought it would be fun if I did this video. I will link McKay's video down below, so you should go watch that one because she does have fantastic reading tastes. But I am very excited about this. I have obviously talked about all of these in my wrap-ups and in recommendation videos, but I thought it would be fun to have all of my favorites so far this year in the same place. I track my books with a online spreadsheet that I made, or that I took from Steph from Novelty Corner and then tweaked it quite a bit to make it into my own, but the bare bones of it are from Steph. And one of the things that I love about doing Google Sheets with tracking books is that I was able to display all of my 5-star reads that I've had so far this year in order. So if I keep glancing this way, it's because my computer is there with the list of all of the books that I have so far. So I have quite a few, so I am just going to get right into them, and we'll do quick recommendations, quick synopsises for each of these books. So my first 5-star read for the year of 2022 was Waking Olivia by Elizabeth O'Rourke. This book is a age gap coach and athlete, coach and student romance, where Olivia is a track runner, and she has recently had to switch colleges and go from D1 to D3. She lost her D1 scholarship and has moved to this D3 school, and she has this coach named Will who is very hard on her at first. He has very high expectations for her, and is very hard on her. But he soon realizes that she has a lot going on. She actually has a condition where she sleepwalks, but instead of sleepwalk, she sleep runs and like sprints, like runs for her life runs. And so she ends up being very tired throughout the day because she was running. And so Will finds out about this and ends up helping her through this and helping her through the trauma of what caused her to sleep run. He very much takes care of her and helps her through this while trying very hard to maintain some professional distance because he is her coach and he's a lot older than her, and so he is trying very hard to maintain some boundaries. And this book is amazing. I can't believe I haven't read any more from Elizabeth O'Rourke yet based on how much I loved this book. But it's so good. There are many trigger warnings because Olivia does have some strong trauma in her past, so abusive parent is definitely one of them. And I know that there are more violence in general, but please look them up because I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. So if you need those, look them up. But this book is absolutely amazing and I love it. And it was definitely one of my top 3 favorite reads of January. The next 5-star book of the year was Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. This is book 1 in the Brutal Birthright series. It is a mafia romance and a forced marriage romance. Callum Griffin is the oldest son of the Irish mafia head, and he has the Irish mafia and the Italian mafia do not get along, and in order to form basically like an alliance, they intermarry within the families. And so Callum, as the son of the Irish mafia head has to marry Ada, who is the daughter of the Italian mafia head, and they do not like each other. But they are forced into this arranged marriage and have to learn to live with each other, and they develop this absolutely amazing romance, and it's so amazing. Ada is a badass heroine. She really is very sassy. She's definitely a mafia boss's daughter who knows how to fight and stick up for herself and is not going to just listen to what her husband tells her to do. It's great. I absolutely love it. Would 10 out of 10 recommend this series. The next book that I have that's 5 stars was Thin Ice by Cassie Mint. This is actually a novella, and it is a ice skater and her coach. It is an age gap novella. This one was really, really amazing for being so short. The coach is, he is their figure skating coach, and the heroine is a pairs figure skater, so she skates with a male partner, and within this very short novella, there is some jealousy. There is that, her fear of her attraction to her coach and what it would mean for her partnership with her pairs partner, because she thinks that her pairs partner has a crush on her, and it just had so much dimension in such a short book, and I was incredibly impressed. It was my first Cassie Mint, and I have since read quite a few now, so I was very impressed with this, and the development of the characters and the relationship in such a short time. The next one is Manacled by Senlin Yu. This is a Harry Potter fan fiction, and it is amazing, and I am very sure it will end up on my favorite reads of 2022. I really, really, really want a bound copy of this. I have been trying to get a bound copy of it, and I will keep trying until I'm able to get one, but I absolutely adored this Draco and Hermione fanfiction. This one is very long and has a lot of elements to it. It is about Hermione during the war when Voldemort has still won, and Voldemort won the war, and Harry Potter has died, and it's basically the wizarding world is having issues with fertility, and so they are having sort of like a baby making slaves, where these women who fought on the opposite side of the war, they fought for Harry Potter against Voldemort, are basically enslaved and sold to, or given to, high-ranking members of Voldemort's cabinet, and are told to have children with them, basically. And Hermione is one of those women, and she is given to Draco Malfoy, and it is a lot. It is very dark. There are so many trigger warnings, but it is incredible. I read this nearly 900-page fanfiction in 2 days. It was fantastic. There is the beginnings of an audiobook on Spotify. Not the whole book is on Spotify, but a lot of it is. So if you want to approach this with a audiobook, there are opportunities. The next one that I have is another Sophie Lark, and that is Broken Vow by Sophie Lark. This is my favorite in the Brutal Birthright series. It is another one that will probably end up on my favorite reads of 2022. This is another mafia romance, and it is a bodyguard romance. I've recently recommended it in a bodyguard romance recommendation video. So I will link that video if you haven't seen it yet. But this one is about Riona Griffin, who is one of my all-time favorite female main characters, and she is a lawyer and a very prickly heroine. Riona has a hit put out on her. She is being threatened and somebody's trying to kill her, and so she has a bodyguard. One of her friends hires her a bodyguard, and that bodyguard is Raylan, who happens to be very excited to be Riona's bodyguard because he likes her, and he is a former Special Forces sweetheart from Texas, and he and her have this like Grumpy Sunshine style romance, and it's fabulous. It's so good, and I adore it. The next one is my only historical that has made 5 stars this year, and that is A Reckless Match by Kate Bateman. This is become one of my all-time favorite historicals. I absolutely adore it. It is a rival families to lovers romance. This girl named Madeline is a Montgomery, and her family is feuding with the Davies, and the king has declared that every year on this bridge in their neutral land, one member from the Montgomery family and one member of the Davies family have to meet and shake hands, or the neutral land is forfeited to the family that showed up. And the Montgomerys really need that land because they have lost a lot of their money recently, and they have a lot of debt. And so Madeline is really hoping that the Davies won't show up this year, but alas they do. And Griff, who is the new head of the Davies family, and Madeline end up having a romance. It is fantastic. I adore this and cannot wait for the next book in the series, which actually comes out in May this month. The next one that I have is Egotistical Puck Boy by Eden Finley and Saxon James. This is a hockey romance. It is a enemies to lovers vibe. I think if you like Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reed, or Him and Us by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy, that you would probably like this. This is a just good old, good, enjoyable, sexy, fun hockey romance, which are far superior to other sports romances. I stand by that. The next one is All Roads Lead Here. This is one that I've mentioned many times on my channel since I've read this book. It is one of my new favorite top 3 Mariana Zapata books. It is a grumpy sunshine, single dad, small town romance that is 100% amazing. I love every single thing about this book. I have talked about it a million times and will continue to talk about it because I love it so much. Then the next one that I have is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. This is a fantasy romance. It is the second book to House of Earth and Blood, which is one of my all-time favorite books ever. So I love Crescent City means so much to me. I actually have a tattoo planned based around Crescent City, so that is how much this House of Earth and Blood meant to me. And this one, while I did not love it as much as House of Earth and Blood, was still 5 stars and fantastic. I love the way that the story is going. I think it's so interesting. Sarah J. Maas takes you on so many twists and turns, especially in this book. It was just so many things that I didn't expect, so many things that I was like cheering in my bedroom alone when I found out that I guessed something right. It was a whole adventure going through this book, and it is long and so good. Next one that I have is another fan fiction, and that is Safe Word is Devil's Snare. I can't remember who wrote this one. This is a Neville and Hermione fanfiction, and it is a another one where the wizarding world is having fertility issues, and so they have to get matched to find the person whose magic is matches with yours. And Hermione and Neville find out that they are a match, and they end up having to get married. and Neville is a like soft dom, and he is into like BDSM, and Hermione like falls into her role as Neville's sub so well. Neville is both a dom and also a sweetheart, and it works so well in this book. This one really took me by surprise. I was not expecting to love it as much as I did. Full credit to Jen from the Book Refuge for recommending this book to me, but wow, is this book great. So enjoyable. I had not read anything like it in the Harry Potter fan fictions that I had read, so this was so great. Next one that I have is When Heroes Fall by Gianna Darling. I give most Gianna Darling's 5 stars. This is a mafia romance. This is book 1 in her Anti-Heroes in Love duet. It is about a lawyer named Elena who has a very black and white viewpoint of the world. People who are good, people who do bad things are bad. And she has this viewpoint until her worldview completely gets shattered when she and her law firm are become the lawyers for Dante, who is a mafia boss, and he is a anti-hero. He is a good person who does bad things, and this is not something that Elena thought could exist, and she is shook when she meets him, and her world gets turned upside down and they fall in love, and it's wonderful. And the next one that I have is Frenched by Melanie Harlow. It's not the cutest cover, but this book is great. This one is about a girl who gets left at the altar, and she decides to go on her honeymoon to Paris by herself, where she meets this guy in France who becomes her tour guide and who she falls in love with. It is so cute. I loved the setting of this one. You get a lot of Paris description and imagery, and I adore Paris, and I am somebody who, like this heroine, had always wanted to go to Paris before I went. I was the little kid who had pictures of the Eiffel Tower and Paris memorabilia in my room in Connecticut, so I really related a lot to the heroine in this book and her desire to go to Paris, and her awe of while she was there and how she was traveling, and her apprehension but yet awe of the city. So I loved this. I thought her romance with the hero played out really fun, and that they worked through and that they worked through their relationship really well. The next one that I have is The Plan by Carla Sorensen. This is another one that I recently recommended in a bodyguard romances recommendations video, so again, that video will be linked. This one is a bodyguard romance. It is an age gap romance, and it is a ex-football player hero and a influencer heroine. The heroine is a influencer who has recently had some trouble with the paparazzi, so much so that she got into a car accident, and she ends up having basically like PTSD about going outside and being in large crowds. So her parents hire her a bodyguard who happens to be a ex-football player who's a lot older than her, and she and him end up having a romance. There's a fake dating element to it, and it's really good. I really loved it. Very amazing. The next one is Rustic Hearts. This is one that I recently recommended in a small town romance recommendations video. So again, I will link that video below. But this one is one where a heroine is from a small town, and her mom takes her away in the middle of the night to New York City, and she doesn't see her father's side of the family for a good 20 years until she gets a phone call that her grandmother has passed away and that her aunt wants her to come home for the funeral and the will reading. And so in order to close out any unfinished business with that side of her family, she decides to go back to this small town where she is confronted with all of her family issues and drama and has to very much work through them, while also falling in love with the with a guy who lives with her family. The next one is Unraveling Him by Claire Kingsley. This is another one that I recommended in that small town romance recommendations video. This one is a grumpy sunshine small town romance with a grumpy hero who is a mechanic and a sunshiny heroine who talks to her plants, who end up having a forced together situation where the sunshiny heroine is able to break down the walls of the hero and they are able to fall in love. This one is The Lucky Heart by Devney Perry. This one is one of my new favorite Devney Perry books. This is another small town romance, and this one is about a girl who it's a second chance romance, sort of, where the heroine, when she was in high school, had this boyfriend who was a drug addict, and she would whenever he was out of control, she would call this friend of hers who would come and rescue her, and her and that friend got very, very close, when she left for college and he went into the military, they didn't see each other for like 16 years, but the heroine's boyfriend from high school recently died, and so she comes back to the small town for his funeral and ends up staying in the small town afterwards, where she reconnects with this guy who was her rescuer in high school, and she has a romance with him. Next one is Hidden Miles. This is another small town romance by Claire Kingsley. This is a hero who is a scarred hero. He has severe PTSD and agoraphobia after coming home from the military, and he has a friends to lovers romance with a girl that he meets online. He's a gamer, and he and this girl meet online, and they end up, after many years of chatting and being friends online, end up meeting in person, and she has to escape an abusive relationship, and he offers for her to stay with him. Praise by Sarah Kate. This is a ex-boyfriend's dad romance where the heroine is trying to get her money back from her boyfriend, and her boyfriend tells her that his father has it, and so she goes to get this money from her ex-boyfriend's father, but her ex-boyfriend's father mistakes her for his new sub, and she is intrigued by the idea and ends up working for him and then becoming his sub and having a relationship with him. After that, I have See Me After Class by Megan Quinn. This is a teacher's workplace romance, enemies to lovers vibes, where a new teacher joins the English department and has a very different teaching style with than the head of the English department, Arlo Turner, and she and him do not get along because of how different their teaching styles are, but they are incredibly attracted to each other and end up having a romance that builds from all of their tension and their arguing. After that, I have Hate by Tate James. This is part of the Madison Kate series, which is a reverse harem dark romance series. Next, I have Four Psychos, which is another reverse harem dark romance, paranormal romance series. This is book 1 in the Dark Side series, I think is what it's, where the heroine is a ghost who has no physical body, and she cannot be seen by the 4 guys that she appears to be tethered to. And she has been watching them and tethered to them for 5 years without them knowing, until one day a person attempts to attack them while they're sleeping, and she is somehow able to gain a physical body and fight back and kill the person who is trying to attack the men. And the men wake up and find out that she actually has been watching them for the past 5 years, and are incredibly suspicious of her, but she is the funniest, sassiest heroine, and they become incredibly attracted to her, and they all 5 have to work together to uncover the secrets of their past, because they all don't have any idea who they are and where they come from. The Long Game by Rachel Reed. This is book 2 to Heated Rivalry. It's a MM hockey romance, and it is the book 2 in the duet, and it is fabulous. It starts out in Heated Rivalry as a enemies to lovers, then friends to lovers, slow burn over many years romance until it ends on an HFN in Heated Rivalry, and The Long Game is their book where they get their HEA. And the last one, number 23, the last 5-star read that I've had so far this year, is The Tyrant Alpha's Rejected Mate. This one is by Kate C. Wells. It is a paranormal romance with an alpha who is a tyrant alpha, and he rejects his mate until he regrets it and then has to spend the rest of the book groveling to try and get her back. It's fantastic. I loved it, and it was my first Kate C. Wells, so I'm really excited to read more from her. That is all of them. We made it. That's all of the 5-star romances that I've had so far this year. I am incredibly excited for the rest of the year to see how we will go. I'm very happy with the list that I have so far. I have found some really amazing romances this year, and I am very excited to find more. So please let me know down in the comments below if you have any recommendations for 5-star reads that you think that I will enjoy. But that's going to be it for this video, so thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe so you can see more content from me, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!